Good morning on this wonderful Wednesday morning here in the UK, and welcome along to another Wednesday special where it's a little bit more relaxed, it's a little bit more chilled out, and I just talk about all things old school wrestling if I can. Last week I spoke about various gimmicks and magazines and stuff of that nature in the early 90s of my childhood of wrestling. But today I thought we'd spend a bit of time just going through a little bit of news in the more current situation, and then I was going to take us to some actual wrestling figures and memorabilia, all those lovely things that we used to collect as kids that I now have somewhere in packages, because I just can't get rid of them because I'm a complete nerd, and I guess I don't know what day I will ever get them out and have them displayed or whatever, but I'm sure in my subconscious it's there to be done at some point. However, don't forget to feel free if you guys want to drop a comment or anything about any memories of your first wrestling figure that you ever got, maybe the figures that weren't so great back in the day. Then let me know. Just before I came on, I was looking about at some people's collections that I knew of, and yeah, I've got to say, like, some people have kept their figures in an incredible shape, like some not even open. So I bet they're worth a bomb. To be quite honest with you, I can imagine how much they will go for. My cousin actually has a friend who has a retro shop that sells a lot of the memorabilia, and they go for quite a bit. So there's definitely value in it, even to this day. But yeah, let me know your first memories of figures. So yeah, welcome along. John Scott here for Powered4.tv. Don't forget Powered4.tv. If you don't know already, we are a video streaming service, over 25 wrestling promotions available, and you guys can get it for 50% off your first month. Real easy. Just use the code I've flagged up here, SP3. Really easy, 50% off your first month on Powered4.tv. We've got loads of fantastic stuff over there, including TNT Extreme Wrestling, one of the flagship brands that we have. The whole archive available at your fingertips. If you want to go across the sea and go for a studio vibe but cinematic feel, then look no further than Chicagoland Championship Wrestling. We also have DNA Pro Wrestling as well, a personal favorite of mine, as well as everything else. And I think Wednesday is 1PW. So 1PW, we drop a 1PW show every week. So you can, I think there's probably over 15 already on there. So when you sign up, you get all the access to that as well, plus media content. So yeah, please go ahead and check that out whenever you guys can. I'm just literally looking down here at my phone. I'm trying to see what exactly the latest news is at the moment. And, a lot coming out of Raw, obviously, this week. Myself and SP3 went over a little bit this on Monday, so I won't kind of go back into it really, because I kind of feel like we covered most of it. But obviously the stuff after Raw is fairly interesting. I've got a picture here that I found. So this is a real nostalgia moment for anybody that was collecting figures back in the day. Let's just flash it up here. Here we go. Look at that. Hulk Hogan, of course, leading. Now I had like two different versions of Hulk Hogan. I had that one, and I also had another one where most of the yellow rubbed off not too shortly after. Now, also notice that some of the characters have the little props, which I tell you what, if you still have the props next to the figures, they're really valuable, because that's one of the things that always gets lost, unfortunately, with those kind of things. But yeah, it's an amazing little set there. I would love to have. I mean, I had probably the majority of those, but I'm not sure I still do, to be quite honest with you. But they are the sort of original Hasbro ones, I guess, that were released. So yeah, let me know, guys, if you had any, crazy figures, maybe WCW as well, the ones that never used to move their arms or legs. That used to always annoy the hell out of me that I couldn't do. I couldn't move them or play about with them as much as I could with the WWF ones. So yeah, let me know what you guys think of that. Let's just take that down. So yeah, talking of figures and that. So I mean, back in the day, my outlet in the UK was always, of course, somewhere like a Toys R Us was like the store that would sell them, but there were loads of other places as well. I mean, to throw back UK stores like Woolworths and most of the big chain shops just used to have an absolute flood of wrestling figures. I mean, it's difficult to explain now because today, the last time I went into a toy shop was something like Smith's Toy Shop, and it's not the same as it used to be. I know that's going to sound old and like, oh, of course he's going to say that but trust me, it isn't. When you used to buy wrestling figures back in the day, in the UK, especially in like, I don't know, the early 90s, I'm talking here, there were masses, like a whole row of wrestling figures, and one side used to be WCW, the other side used to be WWF, and you couldn't get enough of them. You really couldn't. Nowadays, it's a little bit different to that because you go into a Smith store and they basically put out like what's going popular, like trending now, like whatever WWE are kind of like plugging on their show. That's what they're selling. But back then, you used to have everything just displayed, and yeah, it's pretty cool times, really. Got a few comments here. Who's this? This is Mark Lloyd. Cool, like the Hogan figure. Yeah, I mean, I suppose that was the most popular one to get your hands on back then. Stephen Argos, yes, my friend, yes, you're right. And as I recall, if anyone remembers, I miss Woolworths. So do I. But remember, Index as well used to be another store that you could get those things out of as well. That used to be pretty cool for all those kind of things. But yeah, I mean, it's real nostalgia, I suppose. I don't want to harp on too much about it because it makes you feel quite depressed, really. Like our friends just put there about missing Argos. I mean, he's right. And I don't think shops, to be honest with you, at least I'd love to know if there are any listeners from across the pond. I should have asked SB3, but if it's kind of the same over there in terms of how WWE merch is sold today, whether it is the same nostalgia and the same kind of vibe that we used to have, because, like I say, you just couldn't get enough of them. I mentioned last week about my love and affinity for wrestling magazines and how there used to be 20 different publishers on one shelf, all very much independent as well. Like, yes, you had WWF, and WWF at one time had like 3 magazines of their own. You had a SmackDown one, a Raw one, and a WWF one. Then, of course, you had all the WCW stuff, and then all these wonderful independent magazines. And honestly, you could spend like, I don't know, like 30-40 pound on just magazines per month. But if you were a flipping like nightmare like me, like just wanted to have all this information at their fingertips, you'd probably get it one way or another. And I was very fortunate. My news agent, if he didn't sell them at the end of the month, he just used to give them to me for free, which was really cool because he wouldn't have done anything with them, to be quite honest with you. So what we got, here we go, our friends over at Northeast Streaming Sports. Yeah, fantastic. Glad you are watching. We're shared, of course, over with them on their Facebook page. Go and check them out as well. They've got some fantastic sports shows from across the pond. They do a great job there. What do we got here? Matthew Barrett. I used to prefer the WWE figures over WCW. Yes, and I'm sure for the same reason, perhaps I preferred them over them, is the fact they could move. I used to have a Sting. Oh, I've still got him, actually. I was going to bring him on for this, but I can't, for love nor money, find him. But Sting used to just stand like this, and you couldn't do anything else with him. He was just stuck. And Ric Flair was, I think it was like this. You'd get him, sorry, I'm not even shot there. You'd get him like this. And that was it. That's all you got. It was a little bit disappointing. Obviously, the WWF ones, I don't know if the WWF ones were as realistic in their looks and features back then compared to the WCW ones. You can always give them the upper hand on that, but they certainly moved. You'd have a special thing. Remember the Road Warrior one was fantastic. But the Ultimate Warrior, for some reason, had gigantic hands, as I recall, and just used to move up and down. The Bushwhackers are one of my favorite ones as well. Guys, let me know. I mean, I'm trying to think back to all the wonderful figures. I'm looking here now on my Google machine. I've just typed it in, and I'm seeing all kinds of figures that I wish I'd have got hold of. The one I could never get, which was really disappointing, was the Honky Tonk Man. Don't ask why I wanted him so much, but it was kind of one of those ones that I could never get hold of. And I think it come originally with a guitar. I'm not sure, but I think he was one of the ones that had the props. Let's check out some more comments here. Same with my local video shop giving me WWF tapes. Nice. That's even better. I mean, crikey, he must have been a decent or decent people there to do that for you. That's amazing. Because remember, tapes back in the day as well, not to sort of ramble on about other things here, avoiding the figures, but VHS tapes were not cheap. In the UK, you were looking at around, I don't know, like 13, 14 pounds. I remember going into Woolworths looking at 97 lots of like a job lot of WWF videos, and they were not cheap at all, and used to spend seemed like hours just looking. Excuse me on the mic there. Apologies, that's going to make a bit of a dent. Used to look at the back of the video, and used to look through the back, and used to look at all the matches and think, oh, this one looks like I've got my money's worth. It's I don't know, they used to tell you the minute as well, the running time, and used to go all these things, especially if you hadn't seen the pay-per-view. If you hadn't seen it live, you was really like focusing on where you're going to get your money's worth. And of course, today, unfortunately, like not that anyone probably would buy a Blu-ray today because we have the WWE Network and everything else. But if you did, really disappointing. I've got to say, the Blu-rays I've seen for WrestleMania of late are just, what they do now is they do a description, a summary. They don't do a match card or anything like they used to. And I can't really say they put a lot of thought into the cover. The cover is very generic, normally filled up with the logo of that year. And it doesn't have the same vibe. I think the last really good cover I saw was probably, it might have been WrestleMania 19 with, I think it had Vince and Hogan on the front. And then the year before that was Hogan Rock, which was Icon versus Icon, and 17 Austin Rock. It was really good because it was all about the main event, and you bought it for that reason mainly. And obviously had a fantastic undercard. Let's not forget here, I'm going on a bit of a tangent there. With the black pants and yellow boots. Yeah, absolutely. That's what I remember. Let me know if you got a Sting figure as well. I used to have the gigantic one as well, where you could pull his head off. It was like rubber or whatever, and you could pull it off and do whatever you wanted with it. I used to have him going up against my Action Men back in the day. I had 2 Undertakers. Yeah, I had a lot. I don't know what I had 2 Hogans. I know that much. I think there was one Undertaker that might have been grey and one that was purple, perhaps. I'm not sure. But I know there were doubles deliberately done back in the day for all that. But yes, it's good. It's good there, Matthew. I'm glad that you're bringing back a flood of memories to myself here, and I'm sure a lot of other people. Let's have a look at this. I had all the WrestleMania, SummerSlams, and Royal Rumbles from 85 to 98. It's a good collection. It's expensive as well. Remember Silver Vision, who used to have a UK distribution shop over here? I used to buy a lot of my stuff from there in the end, because they used to do some good sales, and every now and then I just used to buy a whole batch. Because going into Woolworths and other stores got quite pricey at the end of the day, so I had to be quite careful. So I used to have to go to Silver Vision. They did this whole WrestleMania box set. I think it was 1 to 15, and I felt like I was getting a bargain, because it was around that time where the F had to go, and they brought WWE in, and Silver Vision or Clear Vision had to just basically sell everything off. It just had to go, so they sold it at ridiculous prices. And trust me, I capitalized. I went crazy and bought so many videotapes. I mean, of course, at the time, I didn't see the emergence of DVDs, unfortunately. If I had, maybe I would have held off a little bit. But in saying that, I know that a lot of WCW VHS tapes are worth a bomb, some of them, because, again, the original tapes, you can't, they only have the licensing for that music and stuff like that, whereas the WWE Network haven't got all the licensing. The same with ECW as well, probably, for that exact reason. But yeah, fantastic stuff there. I'm just, you know what I'm looking at here, and I might flash it up here, because this is a different type of figure that I remember, and I don't know if anyone else has got it, but has anyone had the Yokozuna WWF figure? Because I'm interested to know, because it looks really different. It looks like something out of Street Fighter, if I'm totally honest with you. So I'd love to know if anybody owns that. The one I don't remember them doing one for was, of course, Vader. I'm not sure Vader ever got one, but he was like one of my favorites for a long time. But just the sizing, looking at Yokozuna here on the sizing and stuff like that, it looks quite legit, to be honest with you. That's why I'm throwing that out there at the moment to you, because it does look pretty decent. Let me just flash it up on screen here. This is what I found, obviously in the original package packet there, as you can see. But yeah, it just looks it looks decent. I suppose that's the one good thing. I'm not sure the figures, and you might correct me on this one, but I'm not sure that the figures were done on height and weight and all the rest of it. I don't know that they've done all that correctly. But then I know that the more recent ones don't always cover that either. I think they've only just started to do that, but in those classic editions you might have seen. But yeah, I mean, that looks pretty decent, to be honest with you. I did not own a Yokozuna, but I just come across it because I was just flashing through some old figures just to see what else was available. This is another version of the Sting one. Now, I have the blue version of this, and I think he's got pink face paint, like you see in the photo behind him. That's the version I have, but the exact same pose is what you see there. He doesn't do a lot else other than that. You get a little bit of I'm just checking out the writing there. That's opponents with strength here. You get a little bit of dialogue there, I suppose, if you want it. I'm not sure the backs had anything to them, if they put anything on the backs or anything like that. But yeah, I'm going to have to speak to my cousin and see if I can have, maybe I could borrow for the day of doing a show like this and just get all the figures, and I'll plug his shop as well as just going through them all. I'm sure he won't mind just to do that on, because that'd be pretty cool for us to do that, I believe. 100%. Yeah, any other figures, let me know, guys. Matthew here has got like some good stuff going on. What is this? Where we got? I had that in 1994. Wow. Well, there you go. Sheesh. Well, there you go. I said some of these were worth a lot. Kamala there, £10,000 by all accounts. So much that one's worth. That's a lot of dosh, isn't it? Really, you're like, crikey, that's just crazy. I don't know what to think of that. The other funny one I'm seeing up on screen here is none other than Mr. What's his name? Oh God, it's gone a complete blur at the moment. That's it. Here we go. This is the pink version of Brutus the Barber Beefcake, and yeah, he's one that looks really very fascinating, to be honest with you. I'm not sure what they were going for with that, but you're right. Some of these prices are incredibly expensive. Like this one I'm looking at here in a package is worth like nearly £4,000. So yes, nothing to be taken lightly there. So if anybody does have these stuff, you're probably sitting on a gold mine and might not know. But I don't know, how could you how could you want to sell them? That's the thing. That'd be the only issue with me and trying to get rid of these things. But yeah, maybe in the UK, and I'm not sure, but maybe in the UK, we weren't always treated to all of the figures. I don't know. I just don't remember seeing as many as I'm seeing here up on screen. So now it makes me think, was I looking properly, or did we not get all the series in this country, etc., etc.? This is the Beefcake one I was just looking at. This is pretty interesting. I would have loved it if it come with the scissors. That's the only disappointing thing right there. I've got to be honest with you. But yeah, what a collection to add there. I mean, Beefcake, I don't know. I mean, I suppose the one thing I have to say is every wrestler back then was over, and it was enough for me to want to go out and purchase it. I'm not sure now, and I'm not just speaking because I'm an adult. So of course I'm going to have a completely different look. But I have, you know, a lot of younger kids in my family, and they're into wrestling, but they don't. The idea of figures and, you know, playing and collecting them is not the same as perhaps my fondness was for them. And I think it's probably to do with society. And, you know, look, we got video games, and you can do things at a click of a button now. It's not quite the same as going down to a local shop and buying a magazine, because you know what, you can just look all this stuff up on the internet. So it's a completely different time. But you know, it does seem like it's lost a little bit of its gravitas. I have seen the modern figures, and by God, they're not cheap either. They're really expensive. So yeah. Just checking out more comments here from everyone. I want to thank everybody that's putting in. Don't forget to leave us a like and a share. Be most appreciated. We are quite new on here. I do this Wednesday one just as a bit of a chilled version, really. We don't do too much. We've got Mark Lloyd, Big Boss Man was my favorite. Yeah, his one was pretty cool because yeah, he come in like the blue kind of police looking outfit US. I'm not sure Skinner had one or not. I'm sure he did at some point, but yeah, they look pretty cool. The Mattel ones look similar to those. Yeah, I probably would agree. I you know, and again, like, I don't know what you think, guys, but like the WCW ones, like, yeah, I did prefer the WWF ones back in the day, but the WCW ones, I've got to say, maybe I'm a little bit more, I show a little bit more appreciation to them as I've got older, because the actual likeness of the wrestlers is perhaps slightly better, I would say, at least on the faces, than some of the WWF ones that I remember. But I don't know who used to make theirs either. I'm not completely clued up. There is a great program on, or there was on Netflix. It's that Toys program documentary they do, and they covered wrestling. Unfortunately, they didn't really go into too much of the sort of WWF stuff as I wanted them to, like, and WCW. I wanted them to focus on that rivalry, but they didn't really go there on the show, which was a bit of a shame. But nonetheless, yeah, they look pretty. I mean, obviously there's different series. The thing with WCW, I suppose, is that they rebranded so many times that perhaps that's why you got so many different versions of WCW figures, because they do look like very, very different. And then, of course, recently, I don't know if you guys saw this, but WWE cheekily did a throwback and started to sell retro, what they presume retro figures, for full price. And they started to resell some of the old classics and how they used to look, which I thought was quite good. I was almost tempted to start a new collection, but then I thought to myself, you know what? Yes, they've made them look old. Yes, they're trying to go for the whole nostalgia. They're trying to give you the throwback of what you could have collected. But I thought to myself, really, will they have the same value when, you know, I don't know, 10, 20 years time? Because I'm sure everyone is only really going to be looking for the original WWF ones, if I'm completely honest. But it was a cool little idea. I think if they'd have dropped the price a little bit more, I would have been maybe half tempted. But I think at the price they were knocking them out for, it just didn't seem 100% worth it, to be honest with you. So yeah, what we got here? We got John. Can you recommend any sites where I can watch some great independent wrestling shows for simple, low-cost monthly subscription? I think I can, Josh. As a matter of fact, over at the I was always going to like throw out a funny one there, but I won't. I can indeed. It is look no further than this, my friends. Powered4.tv. As I mentioned at the top of the show, listen, guys, right now, giving away a code here, and all you've got to use, really, really simple, not a hard thing at all to do it. But we on Powered4.tv, we've got over 25 promotions. TNT Extreme Wrestling being one of them, the flagship, if you will. Just use this code as well. SP3, 50% off your first month. I mean, can't say any fairer than that. And not only that, look, just get over there anyway, because you can see everything that is available on Powered4.tv. There's no hidden stuff. Like, you don't have to put money down and then all the stuff comes up. No, you get to see what we've got access to, and some of the stuff is actually free content as well. So just to go over there and have a look at that is worth doing it anyway, and you may come across something you enjoy. I will give you recommendations to TNT Extreme Wrestling, Chicagoland Championship Wrestling, a really good promotion, very undervalued in my opinion, is Clash Wrestling. Definitely go and check that out. But there's loads of great content on there, and I tell you what, we are what I would call the Netflix of wrestling. Like, we're not just committed to one, we're committed to everybody. And also, you know, look, I kind of sound, Josh has put this one on me a little bit, but I kind of sound like a salesman doing this. I don't want to come across like that as just doing the old spiel like you hear on a lot of these shows. I do this, and I'm absolutely honored to do this. It's always my dream to house and have my own VOD basically for wrestling. I'm a wrestling fan like you guys. Unlike a lot of other VODs out there, I don't treat people that sign up as customers. I treat you as fans, because we're all fans at the end of the day. We all love wrestling. If you're sick and tired of the mainstream product, we've got loads of stuff here for you that you wouldn't have come across. So yeah, please go and check that out. You'll get your money's worth, let's put it that way. More Hasbro. Yeah, I mean, Hasbro is the one, Matthew. You're absolutely right. Hasbro is the one that we used to go on. Loose ones for anywhere from £100. That's crazy money, dude. That is crazy money. But you're right, because I'll mention the shop anyway. He's a good friend of mine, and I know he's going to let me have those figures to use on this show next week. So it's cool. I'll plug him. Retro Hunter. Go and have a look at him. He's on Twitter. He's got a big following, and he's also on Facebook. And he's a really good friend of the shows. He used to let me use it as a little bit of a studio back in the day to do my old podcasts in for wrestling. But he has got, I mean, he doesn't just do wrestling figures. He does old video game machines, and it's well worth going to have a look. If you're into that kind of stuff, go and check those guys out at the Retro Hunter. But he's got a ton of WWF merch, and I know he'll let me borrow it, I think, for the day to just do a show with you guys on. I'm sure we can do that nonetheless. So yeah, incredible amount of money there, Matthew, as you say. I suppose it's it's already there to see. There we go. Well done, Matthew. Thank you very much. That's cool. Cheers, buddy. Yeah, they're good friends with us over there, and also they do a lot of other stuff, like really old retro stuff. But what I will say about him, and I'm not just saying this because I'm his mate, but compared to eBay prices, he's a lot better. Let's put it that way, and a little bit more tangible over there than a lot of other stuff. Okay, guys, I am going to cut for a quick break, which is going to basically plug Powered4.tv. In any case, and when we come back, we will talk about other stuff from the old school, but as well as new stuff. I've just been reading up on some news, going to get your guys thoughts on WrestleMania, what we're thinking of it. Are we feeling it? Are we not feeling it? I've got to be honest with you, I'm very divided. I know SP3, I think, was into it when I spoke to him on Monday on Powered for SP3, but I'm still a little bit curious as to see where we're going to go with all this. But I'll see you guys straight after this quick little ad. There you go, folks. Chicagoland Championship Wrestling, one of the fantastic shows that we have on powered4.tv. Those guys do an incredible job for us. Really, really good. It's like studio wrestling from the old days, but with a cinematic feel and vibe to it. They have the, what I like about it is they have the interview desk out as well. So all the wrestlers cut some incredible promos. They're not shy of a mic there. And they're really, really good. They're really, really good. So recommend that. Don't forget powered4.tv, 50% off. Use the code SP3. As simple as that. I keep saying it. But, I want you guys to have a good deal. Normally priced at $7.99. Listen, you're getting 50% off your first month. Feel free. Go ahead. Like if you're like me, listen, I've been spending the last God knows how long at home working, and I get a lot more free time. And to be honest with you, without too much other independent wrestling coming in, having access to something else is not bad. It gives you something else to focus on. So don't forget, use that code. In the meantime, let's go and check out some news then, shall we? Now, SP3 alluded me to or took me to a story about Bow Wow possibly coming into the WWE. I don't know what you guys think about that, but I know he threw out a tweet and it got a lot of traction and everyone was talking about it. And I kind of was thinking, like, should I be surprised? We've got musicians in there at the moment. I'm sure this is just another perhaps attempt of WWE trying to maybe push something out for somebody else. But yeah, it looks like, they don't do stuff like that if there isn't fault behind it. We know there's the affiliation, of course, with Sasha Banks, obviously Snoop Dogg. Look, something's got to be worked out there, in my opinion. So it would not surprise me if that's the case. Also, if anybody checked out NXT Takeover this past Sunday, let me know. I've heard nothing but good things about it. I watched the show. I thought it was one of the strongest of the year, to be honest with you. I think it'd be hard to top it. Obviously, Wrestle Kingdom for me is at the Mecca. But I actually thought NXT Takeover was a pretty decent card. The only negative I've seen, which is a little bit odd, is that all the matches were like almost all too strong, and there was no come down in terms of the pacing of the card. But if that's all you're moaning about, I don't think they've done a bad job. What we got here? We go. Mike Mad Dog Angus, who you can see all over powered4.tv. He's a ring announcer for a few of the promotions, including TNT. Good to see him. He'll be joining us. He joins us for added time every week on a Sunday. And also, don't forget, I'll be back here Friday, same time again, 11:30 GMT time. For if you're into football, you might not be, but if you're into football, soccer, we do a football side of it as well. And we'll be building up that weekend's lot of fixtures and also looking back at the midweek games as well. So I'll see Mike there. Just another point here from Matthew. Yeah, well, this is what I'm saying. I can only imagine that he will be involved because, like I say, WWE, they don't do these things for nothing. There's normally always something behind it, and I'm sure this is no different in my opinion. Also, while I'm here, big announcement next week. A couple of guests coming onto the show. I'm going to have one of the natural progression participants that was just announced, of course, last weekend from Progress Wrestling. Big Guns Joe is going to be joining me next week. He's going to be coming onto the show to have a chat about how he's going to, well, how he would have got on by then, of course, because that's this Saturday, 8 p.m. going up on Demand Progress and also the WWE Network. So go and check that out. But he's going to be on there, and also even bigger news that I'm really pleased to tell everyone, and well overdue for anybody that is a UK wrestling fan. You'll know what I mean when I say this. Davey Boy Smith, the British Bulldog, finally. We thought we were going to get this last year, but of course, the whole COVID thing, it didn't happen. It's going to happen this year. He's going to be inducted. Absolutely deserves this, in my opinion. He's one of my absolute favorites. I'm going to have his daughter on, Georgia Smith, next week. We're going to be chatting about that and how she's preparing for it, what she's got planned after it. I know she wants to do some tours with a lot of the old merch, the old gear that he used to wear as well. Obviously, she'll be in possession of the Hall of Fame ring as well. But yeah, we're going to be talking to her about that next week on Powered4.tv. I'll be dropping that probably next Friday. So check that out. It's going to be pretty good. And yeah, I think like when it comes to the Bulldog, look, I know we might seem biased in this country because we're British and we just want to see him in. But like, I think if you go back to SummerSlam 92, it doesn't take an expert to work out what trail that left in the UK in terms of what it did for British wrestling, because in 92 they signed that gigantic deal with Sky Sports and Sky Box Office, and that was like a massive thing back then, and that only took place after SummerSlam. So you know, it spearhead a lot of that stuff to come, and yeah, well overdue for me, but I'm pleased he's in there. I really am. So yeah, thank you, Matthew, there for the comments as well. He's just put, I met the British Bulldog Davey Boy Smith in 1994. That's excellent. That's amazing. Tell us where that was. What event was that? An event, I assume, or something else? Obviously, he had like a spell in WCW as well. I've seen him, I think, on 3 occasions in matches anyway, and once at a convention type place. But yeah, always totally nice guy. My very first interview, believe it or not, which was for an old podcast I used to do when I started in 2015, was with Diana Hart, and we spent almost 2.5 hours just talking about all the old history and all the stuff with Davey, and it was really, really good. I owe a lot to her because she kind of put me on the map a little bit. So I'm looking forward to talking to Georgia next week. You know what? I'm looking at other news here, guys, and I've got to be honest with you, it's a pretty flat day. I'm not sure if it's been like that all week with wrestling news, but normally I am used to seeing ridiculous amount of rumors and goodness knows what else coming out from people. So I'm gonna have another check on some different sites. If there's, maybe you guys know some stuff as well, let me know, like throw it in the comments. I don't mind spending a bit of time talking about that. Just to go back on the figures, someone's just texted me a picture. I wish they'd have put it on here, because then I could have easily got it up on screen. But they text me a shot of the gigantic Sting that you used to be able to buy, and it looks bloody heavy, to be honest with you. Some of the paintwork's come off him, but I mean, other than that, it looks fairly decent, if I'm honest. So yeah, that's the one I used to have as well. I don't know what I did with him. He could be absolutely anywhere, but yeah, who knows on that one. But yeah, if you can check it out on your Google machine, I don't know what you'd put it down as, the giant Sting figure. I have no idea what we go for there, but nonetheless, it looks pretty cool. it does look pretty cool. So yeah, you guys can check that out. Got a few other things coming in here. What we got? Oh, it was a local. Saw Davey Boy Smith at a local wrestling show in Liverpool during his tour. That's cool. Yeah, that was his old stomping ground as well back in the day before he even got to Stampede, as I recall. Wow, he was a surprise wrestler. Well, he must have got a huge pop there then, I would imagine. Brett Thomas, Logan Paul, WrestleMania. This guy, Brett Thomas, I don't know who you are, but I've seen you now on like 3 other shows, and you keep saying about Logan Paul. I don't know anything about Logan Paul or Jake Paul or anything about these guys other than they were going to be involved in a boxing fight with Floyd Mayweather. I've got to be honest with you, and I asked SP3 as well live on the show, and both of us scratching our heads. We didn't know what on earth you were going on about, because I've not seen anything about Logan Paul coming to WrestleMania. So unless you've got inside information, share it with us, because I don't know. I have no idea about Logan Paul coming on at WrestleMania at the moment. So yeah, I had a giant Hulk Hogan and Ultimate Warrior. Wow, that's pretty cool. Do you remember those kind of like soft kind of pillow versions? I mean, they weren't pillows, but they were soft cushiony type stuff you used to get as well. I think there was only a handful of WWF wrestlers that had it. I know Warrior had one, Hogan had one. Oh, were there any more? I would like to think there were, but yeah, they were pretty cool. I see those a lot about, and I tell you what I've got as well. I've got an old rucksack, WWF rucksack. It's got like the Road Warriors, Warrior, that kind of golden time of professional wrestling. The bag is actually in quite good tack. It's not really ever been used. I think I got it with a job lot, a collection that I bought years and years ago in Birmingham from somebody. This guy, it's a funny story, talking about buying like someone who hoards wrestling stuff. So this guy messages me. This is way back in the day. This is 2002, AOL days. Maybe it was earlier than that. I don't know, but it was on dial-up days. We didn't have broadband. Remember those days, kids? So we had this guy on AOL. We used to have these like chat rooms, and they were dedicated to like wrestling or, music. So I used to go in these wrestling chat rooms, and every day this guy used to come on and say, well, my wife, she's telling me I've got to get rid of all this stuff because it's everywhere. I'm looking for a buyer. I'll just sell it wholesale. I'll cut a good deal with you. And I believe he had every magazine. Like he had about 23 different publishers, and they went back to about, I believe it was about 89 to 2001. So it was a lot. And he had about 5 copies of every one of them as well, which was just insane. But he also had figures, and he had signings and photos and goodness knows what else. Anyway, I said to him, well, look, I'll cut you a deal. I can't remember how much I paid, but I think I only paid I want to say it was about £500, which might have seemed a lot back in the day, but I ended up selling that stuff, at least the copies of them. I made at least 4 times as much as that. But in any case, I live in Essex, so we went to Birmingham. We drove up there. We get to this guy's house. I walked through the front door, and geez, just as I got in, there were magazines like stacked up. There were other magazines. There was figures. I said to him, I need the toilet. We've been going for like 3 hours away. I said, can I use your toilet? He said, yeah, go ahead, go upstairs on the right or whatever. I go up there, I go in this toilet. Man, there's magazines in the bathroom. There's so many magazines. They're just everywhere. I could see why his wife wanted this stuff gone. There was magazines all over the place, figures. I mean, just crazy. The car, I can't remember what the car it was, but it was like, let's put it this way, it was almost hitting the floor all the way home on on the road. It was insane. But I guess collections can get like that. If you're a collector, the obsession of having it and never getting rid of it can be quite overpowering at times. I don't know if anyone else has got any funny stories like that, but yeah, this guy, you could tell his wife had pretty much had enough. And to be honest with you, I don't ever think he ever got back into wrestling after. So it was almost like he gave away his whole childhood there. Felt kind of sad, to be honest with you, when we were driving away, because I was kind of thinking, like, how would I feel if somebody's just come in? Yeah, they give me a decent price for that time, but like, oh yeah, all that work, all that running down the shops, how many times he ever did. Because he was telling me once that he almost got in a real panic because one of the publishers didn't have their magazine coming. So he had to travel all the way down to some ridiculous distribution center in London just to get the magazine, just to make sure he had it. And that's just absolutely nuts. But yeah, there you go. Funny story. I had the Hulk Hogan on Giant Ultimate Warriors. Yeah, they're the ones. I think I've only ever had the Warrior one of all that, to be honest with you, Matthew. There was a Legion of Doom, Jake Snakes, and Bushwhackers. Yeah, I mean, who doesn't love the Bushwhackers? Bushwhackers, for me, back in the day, I don't know what it was about them, but I don't know. I just used to love the Bushwhackers, to be honest with you. Just really, I mean, I suppose they were kind of funny. Obviously, if you looked at their sort of previous stuff to WWF, they're actually hardcore wrestlers. You know, they weren't no joke then, but they were very good at marketing. I mean, every kid I used to know, you say the word Bushwhackers and it's this straight away, Bushwhackers. Like, everybody knows that. So yeah, you know, you can say what you want to say about them not being technical or anything else in terms of their wrestling ability, but like, look, they were over, weren't they? I mean, over to the point where I'm still talking about them today. So, you know, there's a lot of tag teams that have come along the last 10 years that have been and gone in WWE, but I don't kind of remember them. They don't stand out. So yeah, you've got to give that to them, I suppose, in those terms, 100%. ECW figures. Has anyone ever had ECW figures? I'm getting a few messages about them as well. I've got to say, ECW, I'm not sure it would have been very easy for me to get them in the UK. I might have had to have ordered them in. There were like these, I can't remember the wrestling shop that used to do it. There was a magazine and they used to do belts and things like that. I want to say the late 90s, I used to get this magazine. I can't remember who they were, but they used to sell a lot of stuff, imports, I suppose. And that's where I'd have to get things like that from. Because it weren't easy back then getting stuff. Like, we didn't have the Euro shop as it became known back then from even WWE. And that's like the mainstream stuff. So yeah, it was a different time back then. You know, I sound proper old here, don't I? But it was it wasn't the same as it is today. Here's a classic one for you. I just found Isaac Yankim. I mean, DDS here with his DDS finisher, I guess. Of course, who would go on later as Kane and the fake Diesel. Of course, who can remember that? But interesting that he had one. I never saw his one. I've got to be honest with you. Yeah, what is that? Ages 4 and up. There you go. See, no worries back then about anything, about people watching that kind of stuff. All good. Anyway, I'm sidetracking stuff. I've looked at news. You know what? Not a lot is coming out, so I'm not going to really focus on that too much. I'm just trying to find other things. I'm trying to find like modern figures just to kind of compare what we are going up against, of course. Let me try and have a look at that now and see. I mean, obviously, in the last year, I shouldn't imagine there's been an awful lot of figures coming out given the circumstance. But, you know, some of them, I don't know, they don't look maybe half as good as I thought they would, you know? Like, I don't know. I'm going to pop one up in a minute for you guys. You can tell me what you think of some of these. But, yeah, they're a little bit, I don't know. They're maybe not as clear. They obviously... The one thing I did start collecting was, do you remember they did the classic series of WWE guys? I started to collect them. But yeah, there's different variations of them now to some of this stuff. Like, my goodness, there's a really crazy one here I'm looking at of Davey Boy Smith. I'm going to put it up on screen in a second. It looks pretty nuts, to be honest with you. I'm not sure I would put down money for it, but nonetheless, pretty. Let me just chuck one of these up here. So this is the Davey Boy Smith one that I've just come across. that is in the WWE Elite Series 82. Here we go. And obviously you've got Matilda at the bottom. He's got different hand grips, I guess, if you want to. Maybe he wants to do a wrestling hold. I'm not sure. Yeah, I don't know. Do I like that? Geez, I don't know. For today, I'm expecting a little bit more. But, in saying that, I've just found a Bill Goldberg one. Now, this is like a modern day wrestling figure. And, we've just been talking about all the Hasbro ones and stuff like that. But, yeah, Bill Goldberg is an old man. They've definitely, they've definitely got that part in the face, haven't they? There, my goodness. Got a grey beard. They're not going to disguise that. He's got the belt, which is probably about right because every time he does come back, he's in some sort of title match, isn't he? Different grips. I don't know what that head thing is all about, but yeah, is that supposed to be him when he's younger? It just looks nothing like him. Not sure what I think of that. It just looks creepy. Anyway, nonetheless, yeah, that's a that's a Bill Goldberg one right there, and that's from the WrestleMania Elite Figure Series 1. So yeah, the Fiend's got some interesting ones as well. Just checking those out, but. Yeah, I won't go too far ahead with that. Now, I just want to remind you guys before I end the show what we've got coming up in the next few days. I'm hoping that what I'm going to try and do on our socials and on the site of powered4.tv is have like a schedule where you guys will know exactly when I drop. I do try and put these out like as early as I can, so schedules are done early, so you guys know when I'm going to go live and stuff like that, so you can participate. I do get a lot of messages saying, "I wish I knew you were on live at that time. I would have come on." And a lot of people watch this after, which is absolutely fine. This isn't a show to have. I'm not looking for thousands here. This is a show that I kind of like just put out just as a little bit of a chilled. If I was going to do this properly, I'd probably pick a better time in the UK, to be honest with you. But it's free time for me at the moment every Wednesday at this time. So I just thought, you know what, I'll come on, I'll chat to you guys about old school wrestling figures and characters and whatnot. So it's always good. But yeah, where we are going to be. So don't forget, Friday, 11:30, same time as I've come on today, GMT time in the UK. We're going to be doing pre-added time with myself. I'll be there. We might have some guests. I'm not sure which one of the boys is about Friday, but nonetheless, I'll be going back in the midweek games, and then I'll be building up to the weekend's Premier League as well. And Sunday, I am back as well. I'll be hosting the added time show from 7 p.m. GMT time as well. And next Monday, our big show powered for SP3 at 5 p.m. GMT time. SP3, the Oracle of Wrestling, all the way from New York, comes on with us every week. He's a fantastic wrestling analyst. He does a lot of stuff at the minute for Sportskeeda. You can also check him out on Wrestling Daily as well with Alex McCarthy. He's kind of all over the place. And, of course, his own thing is just flash this up here, which you can see him on the True Heel Heat, which is his own YouTube channel, and they drop stuff like every single day. So yeah, don't miss any of that stuff. And don't forget, guys, 50% off by just using SP3, the code. Very, very simple there. Also, don't forget this. I'm going to plug this out anyway. People always ask me, they're like, why are you plugging other VODs and other stuff? And I'm like, dude, I'm a wrestling fan. Yes, we've got powered4.tv. We've got over 25 promotions. Don't get me wrong. But I'd be naive to think a wrestling fan only watches like one lot of wrestling. Of course, as wrestling fans, we watch all wrestling most of the time. I go back and watch old school wrestling. So, of course, I have no issues at all plugging other promotions and even other VODs, despite what people think. They think I'm nuts. Listen, I'm just very sure and believe in the products that we have at powered4.tv enough to be able to tell you guys, look, go and watch Progress on WWE Network and On Demand Progress, because guess what? It's good stuff. It's good wrestling. And we got someone on as well next week. So I need you guys to check that out to know what we're going to be talking about. So it makes perfect sense. Never, ever have an issue with that. Listen, you help us, we help you. Vice versa. You know the score. And I think that just about does it. You know, I'm looking around at other stuff. Can't see a lot going on. Got to be honest with you. So I'll be back. Don't forget on Friday morning. Want to thank everybody that's contributed, especially Matthew. Fantastic. Really threw some great memories towards me with the whole Woolworth stuff there, my friend. Real nostalgia. And yeah, looking forward to having more of that. Hopefully you'll join us next week as well. Don't forget the big interview with Georgia Smith next week. Going to be talking about her dad finally being inducted, Davey Boy Smith, into the WWE Hall of Fame, which should take place, I believe, on the WrestleMania weekend, which is going to be absolutely fantastic. Yeah, so I've been John Scott. I'll see you next time, guys. Thanks for watching.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Millie McKenzie! She is at least 5 sandwiches short of a picnic. Casey